Hello, viewers. I'm Paramita Ghosh from the New Indian Express, and today we have a very special book with us. It's a personal history of independent India. It's called Undying Light, and it's by Gopalkrishna Gandhi, a former diplomat, a governor, and the grandson of Mahatma Gandhi and C. Rajagopalachari. Welcome to the show, sir. It's a great honor for you to be with us here today.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
The Undying Lights is a family story and also a nation story. And in it, you speak like a grandson, but also like the biographer of your grandfathers. How did you strike this balance? And were there moments when being the grandson of such illustrious grandfathers was a challenge for the historian?
That's more than one question, but let me try to answer all of them. First things first, there is a genre called personal history. And there is a book called The Personal History of the Republic of Ireland, which was sent to me by Mr. David Davidar, the publisher of Aleph Book Company, saying, would you like to take a look at this? And if you like the book, would you like to write a personal history of independent India? So I thought about it, and then I found I had around me a lot of archives, apart from memories, also a lot of books and photographs, which I thought could form a personal history. Now, what is a personal history? How different is that from a history? It is different in the sense it is not a chronological history book written by a historian, but a set of recollections and impressions of historical moments which are personal to the personal historian. That is how this book started. And it is in that genre, so it is part memoir and part history. And as a memoir, I hope it is not too obsessed with the two grandfathers. I hope I am not too much of a grandson writing it, but just as a person with a lot of recollections, not more important than those of anybody else, but somewhat backed by archives.
Your pen sketches of Nehru, Ambedkar, and Jinnah brought out the human drama of the times and the politics when played at the highest level. In your words, Ambedkar's intense by himselfness, Bapuji's failure to befriend Jinnah, then him springing the proposal that Jinnah be prime minister. How much of this proposal do you think was in good faith, and who do you think could have been the best prime minister India never had?
Well, once again, you are doing me the favor of asking more than one question in one. If I don't separate the two, I will get a little lost. So let me separate the two. Baba Sahib Ambedkar was very central to the formative years of the Republic of India, both as the principal draftsperson and visionary involved in the writing of the Constitution of India and the Constituent Assembly, and also as the first law minister of India. So he it was who initiated many extraordinary enactments, including the Hindu Code Bill, which couldn't get enacted in his time but took some time to come through in separate enactments. So Baba Sahib is foundational. As far as Muhammad Ali Jinnah is concerned, he won his prize by what I call a ferocious focus. He got his Pakistan. At what cost to the integrity of India's civilization? At what cost to the human reality of the subcontinent? We are now beginning to understand more and more. I do not think, as far as the Prime Ministership of India is concerned, there could have been any greater Prime Minister than the first Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru, who was both aware of India's destiny as a person who was interested in history, but who was also a freedom fighter, having spent years, 9 years, in prison, and having given to the youth of India, along with the seniors who were inspiring all of India, having given to the youth of India a certain excitement about the new India and its role in the world.
You have not held back on the eccentricities or the missteps that C. Rajagopalachari took or of M.K. Gandhi. What are the lessons that you draw from them?
I didn't seek to draw lessons. The lessons were being drawn by the country altogether. C. Rajagopalachari was a person steeped in the traditions of India's devotionalism without sentimental attachment to any particular religion or particular tradition, just devotion to the universal spirit. He was an ethical man who knew India's religious traditions like the back of his palm. He was also a very modern person in the sense that he knew what was happening around the world in terms of intellectual ferment, in terms of the human condition. So he brought to India the genius of India's spiritual tradition and also the sparkle of contemporary thought. He was conservative, traditional, as well as modern and cosmopolitan. He was a rare mix, a rare sparkle of the intellect, the imagination, and the heart.
For me, one of the surprising revelations about the book was that it was Gandhi who proposed Radcliffe's name for the partition plan. And as you mentioned in the book, that um, he was a man who knew the law well, but not India so much. Why do you think Gandhi backed him?
And just to make a small correction, it was not Gandhi who proposed Cyril Radcliffe's name at all. No, no. I believe it was proposed by Mr. Jinnah. Nobody else had known of Radcliffe in India. Radcliffe did not know India. He had never been to India before, and he never came to India afterwards. He brought to his tasks a certain legal rigor, and that's about it. The commission had representatives of Hindus and Muslims, both for the East and for the West. And the lines were drawn. And there is a very good documentary called, I think, This Bloody Line, because it was soaked in blood during the partition, the blood of innocents. And I think that is a documentary worth seeing.
Now, the book is really unusual and powerful. I think mainly because, Gandhiji was your grandfather, because it really does make a strong case for Ambedkar and talks about his being shortchanged, about the Hindu Code Bill, about Nehru letting realpolitik win over Ambedkar's concerns, and also delving into your family's history, even so far as to say that the inherited halo of Harijan Seva, itself a derogatory term. And that they were egalitarian in their reading, but they did not have a single Indian Dalit as friend. These revelations, were you trying to correct history in some way, set some record straight? Were you trying to leave a message?
Babasaheb Ambedkar does not need a case. The future of India was the case. And he had the legal background, he had the political vision, and he had his extraordinary the stamina which he brought to bear on his labors. The future of India as a republic, bringing in both the elements of a union and of a federation, of a federal country. That was his goal, and that was his allotted task. And he brought to bear on that all his studies of the constitutions of other countries, as well as his own knowledge of India's condition, India's realities. The portion on India on fundamental rights is, I think, his greatest contribution to the Constitution. He was the emancipator of the Dalit population of India. He was their leader and much more than leader. He was their ideator, but he, as law minister, was law minister for the whole of India, Dalit India and non-Dalit India, for all its communities and creeds. And that is what makes him so extraordinary.
Talking about the 70s, it is then that your story as Gopalkrishna Gandhi, the diplomat, takes off in the book. And you have also shown that you were not coy of being ambitious. You wanted and did become governors, and you also uh, wouldn't have minded the vice president's post. Looking back, were you glad, even though you had no chance of winning, that you fought the good fight?
I can't agree with you more. You have made a statement, it's not a question. And yes, I agree with you. I don't agree with your assumption that I wouldn't have minded being vice president. I didn't hesitate to say yes when I was asked to contest, which is slightly different from not minding that position. I didn't hesitate to say yes for the reason that I had some experience of working within the four walls of the Constitution in a constitutional office, which was in Kolkata, for a short time in Patna as governor, and also having served with two presidents of India, President R. Venkatraman and President K. R. Narayanan. I knew that the opposition candidate at that time had no chance of victory. But one doesn't enter an election only to win, though I would have been very happy to win, but one also enters an election to uphold a certain moment, and that moment was a moment of opposition unity and a democratic opposition unity. And I, as a candidate, also hoped, and to some extent, I think to a large extent, succeeded in making that moment of contest a clean contest, a contest without acrimony, and certainly in good taste.
Sir, in the book, are there any high points or any regrets that you have sort of mentioned in the book regarding your life, your decisions, anything that you would want to sort of tell us?
I, I hope I don't loom too large in the book. I shouldn't. I would bore any reader if I were to write too much about myself because my life is singularly undramatic, unimportant. I think the value of my narrative lies in this, that it is the narrative of an Indian of my generation who is bewildered by what has been happening in the country, to its core values, the challenges to its future as a civilization where all religions and all ethnicities live in harmony, not just in passive harmony, but in mutual respect. These values are of and have been of some concern to my generation, and I believe even to the current generation. And I ask myself this question: are we a non-violent people who sometimes lapse into violence? Or are we by nature violent, who are drawn towards non-violence by the great leaders like the Buddha, like Ashoka, like the great saints and singers, Kabir and Nanak, and in our times by Gandhi? Are we this or are we that? These are fundamental questions. And I have pondered this and have come to the conclusion that we are a light. We are a light, a lamp, which has been lit centuries ago and which keeps getting touzled by the winds of hate and suspicion, but which just refuses to go out. It does not die.
Thank you so much for these words of hope, sir. And thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you.
I appreciate our conversation. Thank you.